Wenn ich ans spanische Kino denke, da fällt mir natürlich als erstes einer meiner absoluten Lieblingsregisseure ein, Pedro Almodóvar. Aber das spanische Kino hat natürlich noch sehr viel mehr zu bieten, und zwar mit Erfolg. Das haben wir ja auch vorhin schon bei der Präsentation von Kim gesehen. Ohne zu viel zu spoilern, darf man schon mal verraten, dass der Spanier an sich und die Spanierin natürlich auch etwas häufiger das Haus verlassen, um ins Kino zu gehen, als wir. Was können wir also voneinander lernen? Looking Beyond the Horizon, a comparison of the Spanish and German theatrical market, is the title of our next panel with this year's partner country, Spain. The panel will be conducted in English without translation and with experts from both markets, moderated by Laura Ulgard-Abbott. I'm very sorry for the wrong pronunciation, CEO of UNIC, starting with a keynote from Bernd Zickert, General Manager Comscore for Germany, Austria, Netherlands and Turkey. The stage is yours.
Okay, good afternoon. Welcome. It's my pleasure to be here and talk about a market which is not the market I'm looking for, thanks to my colleagues in Spain, David, Joachim, you know him, and to my colleague Natalie and the whole team, that I can be here. So this keynote should give you a quick overview on the Spanish market, about the volume and the size of the market, about the issues they had in the past and the current situation, and should give you some insights on how the future could look like. So Spain, a little smaller territory than Germany with 49 million inhabitants. We in Germany with 84 million, but with a very high very high is not the truth, but a higher cinema going frequency than we have in Germany, with 1 visit per capita, while the Spanish guys go nearly 1.5 times. And let's see what worked well in the last year. First look at 2024 top titles. So there's a very common and unique thing. Inside Out 2 dominated both markets. General, the top 10 results are dominated by the global product, by the US product, but also local, in both countries, local product is every year and after year quite important and a big part in the top 10. If we look to a much longer period of time, we ran a report of the movies since 2015 to 2025. Same thing here, Avatar dominates the market, was the most important titles, but in Spain, there's also, like in Germany, there's a strong local product. Germany, we have Fuck You Goethe. In Spain, it was, I can't read the title. Ona? Patro no hay mosca. On Wednesday with 2 million admissions. So in Germany, we had the Fuck You Goethe and Honey in the Head. So looking over longer period, it's we have 2 lines here with a 25-year comparison. The golden line is the Spanish admission part, and the blue line are the German admissions, the yearly admissions. We see a certain set on certain peaks. And at the beginning, in the 2000s, Spain was only slightly lower than Germany, so the cinema attendance had been much stronger than it is before. And remember, Spain only has 48 million admissions and made around 100 million admissions. So it was a very, very strong cinema market with also a strong local market share. So the peaks we see here in Germany, it was the Schuh des Manitus, in 2004 Traumschiff Surprise or Sieben Zwerge, in 2006 in Germany Ice Age, Harry Potter and Wiki afterwards. But coming back to Spain, something happened there in 2007, 2008, and it was a big economic crisis and caused by the real estate bubble, which is kind of the implosion of the whole industry and the whole economic situation there. And cinema admission was going down. Unemployment rate raised up to 20%, and many theaters had to close, especially the smaller cinemas in the countryside and throughout the country. So in 2013, something happened again. You see the yellow line is going up. And we now have the box office in Spain. That's the golden line, and the dotted line is the admission again. And you see where the delta in the years before, the box office remained stable, but admission went down. And for a certain time in 2013, it completely crashed. And then it's raising up, and that's the good part of it and the good part of the story. The industry did some changes. There had been initiatives by distributors, by exhibitors, and the whole industry tried to recover the market. There was an agreement for many years, keeping the ticket prices quite low. There had been initiatives like the Cinema Day in Spain, a cheap cinema day every week. And so these initiatives all helped to recover the industry and come back to the point where they still are. Then we see the crisis, we all know, and the market is coming back. So we talked about before about the importance of the local market shares and about the local product. So the local product regularly is 17, 18, 19% in Spain. In 2022, there's a higher market share caused by, I use the English title, Spanish Affair Part 2. And it was a very successful title, but also in parallel, the absence of global international product, which raised the market share up to 22%. Something also different than to our German territory, Spain has a high attendance in the summer months. There are two reasons. There are nearly 3 months of summer holidays, and which allows families to go to the cinemas quite often because it's a very low-level entertainment facility and it's still used. The other months are quite flat. We have the regular increase by the end of the year around the Christmas breaks with the Christmas blockbusters, which is similar to Germany, but they don't have the strong cinema attendance in the first quarter, which we didn't have this year. If we look to the territories, the Spanish market has about 750 cinemas and 3,500 sites. So the average screen per cinema is 4.7, which is nearly 2 screens higher than in Germany. That's a result of the history when all the theaters or small theaters had to close during that time. And the new build multiplexes still performed quite well. The areas are, the key areas for cinema going are Madrid, Catalonia, Andalusia, and Valencia, but also in the other regions with not a huge number of sites or screens, the cinema attendance per cinema is quite high. So that does not mean that only where lots of cinema is lots of cinema going. There's a certain correlation, but for the cinema owner itself, it could be quite successful to be in an area with less cinemas or even less people. So my last slide to give you some impression, how does the Spanish audience look like? Our colleagues are doing an online survey on cinema goers. It's called CineQuest. And the gender is nearly equal for the time we're looking to. That's 52 to 48%. It's slightly women-based, but we're doing that survey only for a year from now, so it may be content-driven. Interesting, the age groups, we only collect data from people which are over 18 years old. There's a very flat and wide age screen, so cinema going seems to be related or a kind of interest in all the age groups. And the frequency, that's quite interesting. The people who go to the cinemas at all, 80% go once a year or even more. So, thank you. That's it. Now I open the stage for the experts. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's working. Thank you so much, Bernd, for setting the scene for us. Thank you again to Christine and to the HGF team for inviting me again to moderate that panel session. I must have done something right last year. What a difference a month can make. Last year I was in my winter coat and my rain boots and my umbrella, so now I can parade in my summer dress. So this is a very happy woman. Now, thank you again, Bernd, and it is my absolute pleasure to invite my two panelists on stage, Jaime Tarazón from Spain and Gregor Freund from Germany. Please join me. Hola.
Bienvenidos.
Hallo.
Hallo.
Try to say these two very quick. It's quite a funny exercise. Can I maybe ask you both to introduce yourselves in a couple of words so people know who you are before we kick off?
Well, my name is Jaime Tarazón. I'm here on behalf of ofthe, which is the HDF from Spain, the Spanish Cinema Owners Federation. I'm also Senior Vice President of UNIC, and I'm also a third generation of theater owners in Spain, based in Barcelona.
Thank you, Jaime. Gregor?
Mein Name ist Gregor Freund. Ich arbeite für die Firma UCI seit 35 Jahren. Leite dort den Filmeinkauf und bin Mitglied im Hauptausschuss des HDF.
Thank you. First things first, we've just seen a very interesting slides to kick off this panel. Anything that surprised you in there?
Well, I must say that what really surprised me is that, not that I know it, but going through the figures as we've been doing with the Comscore team, we realized that, I mean, I'm not going to say that Germany is a small market, but if you compare to Spain, you should be selling more tickets than we do.
Wow.
I don't know why. I don't have the solution. Don't look at me. But what is the really the thing that really impressed me more, no? Because it's far bigger country, larger footprint, and I think you got the potential. I have other remarks on different aspects of this presentation that I found it very interesting, because one can learn a lot about looking to their neighbors and trying to see. In many things we are very similar markets, but I think that there are lessons to be learned in comparing both territories.
Absolutely, and this is why we have you both on today. Gregor, anything that you found surprising in the presentation?
Not very surprising, but I had expected more Spanish titles on the top 10 lists that we saw. Because when I look at when we're shown the numbers on Mondays, I have the feeling there's always one or two Spanish films in the top 10. So I would have thought there would be more in the overall top 10, but maybe you have many smaller films compared.
Yes, or the it's the footprint of US product in Spain is very relevant. When we are a market that relies a lot. We wish we could be like the French market, for example, where several, it's not close, it's very close to 50% of the box office that is done by local content. But this is one of our challenges. Yes, we have a lot of movies, but I think that it's also related to the promotion. We don't spend, distributors in Spain don't spend enough money promoting these movies. But I guess it's also a very European trend, no? That we don't spend as much money as our US colleagues do in promoting the movies. And in the end is one thing that is very relevant.
Yeah, it could be.
We will talk a bit more actually about local content in a while, but you're right, marketing is certainly one of the issues that we share as countries. And yes, we all wish we could be like France, don't we? Moving on, we've had an interesting 2024 and an even more interesting Q1 in 2025 with a very, very slow start of the year, I think it's fair to say. January, February, March were quite depressing. And then we had April, which was much better. How do you feel about the year that has gone by and about the first quarter? And I swear, we're going to talk about the past now, but we'll talk about the future in a minute.
Allow Gregor to answer first. I cannot speak for the Spanish market. At least in Germany, you had a good April, but we didn't have not even that.
Yeah, we had a good April. We had a slow beginning of the year. But there were not many titles that you would expect to do great business. So it was disappointing in a way, but it was expected also. And in fact, we were a little more pessimistic about Minecraft. We had it high in the budget, but then when we saw the first trailer, we lowered our forecast. And then when TikTok happened and the film was back to our budget levels, so that was very good. But I also have the feeling that we're relying a lot on TikTok at the moment. When there's a TikTok trend with a film, the numbers are a lot better than without it.
Yeah, it is true, but I think that this is a trend that has happened in recent years, that we do not have enough number of performing movies. We have lots of movies. There's always lots of movies. If you look at the numbers, they can tell you, no, this year there were so many releases as the past year. But performing movies are very scarce, and we rely too much recently, in recent years, on one or two titles. While when we see these figures, that Germany was around 120, 140 million tickets. Even if you notice in one of these charts, in 2004, we both were countries that almost reached 140 million tickets sold. At that time, we had a regular flow of product, meaning that there was a new or a couple of new releases this week, but we still had the previous week movie performing. The movie that has been released 2-3 weeks ago was still performing, and that made those figures successful figures. Nowadays, we have 1-2 movies that perform in every given month, but not a whole lot of movies that perform. And I think that this is the real, I wouldn't say the new normal, because I agree that there is not that new normal, but until we get that regular flow in Spain, we rely a lot on US product. We won't get back to those standards that I think we could reach if we manage to get enough performing movies in a regular way. This is critical.
I'd like to say we rely as much on American product as you do on US product. It's our share of local films is similar to yours.
I mean, you mentioned the power of TikTok to attract audiences, the peer-to-peer kind of review, and that takes me to Spain, actually, Jaime. What do you think the audience wants when they come to the cinema in Spain? What do they expect, both in terms of content and experience?
Just let me add a few words to what Gregor said. One thing is that in Spain, most Spanish movies are released by US studios. Mm-hmm. So on a dating issue, they place them where they don't have US content. So in a way, maybe they are not giving them the very best dates. I'm not so familiar with this German market, but I see that a lot of successful German movies are released by local independent distributors. Some of them.
Yes, they are. But there are also American studios who produce German films and successful German
No, in Spain also they produce, and that is a good trend that encouraging. But again, I think the big challenge is not just producing, but marketing them the same way that they do market other content to make them popular. And going back to your question, what do audiences expect when they come to the cinema? I mean, this I would mention something that Spain, as you've seen in the charts, we had back in the late 90s, early 2000s, most of the multiplexes were built at that time, were built up to 4,000 screens. And there was a heavy investment in cinemas at that time. At that time, I could tell you that in Spain, we had, on an average way, the best cinemas in Europe. No other country could offer as many good cinemas as we offered at that time. But because of and you've also seen in the charts, that with the economic crisis that Bernd mentioned in 2008, the economy went down. At that time, if you remember the chart, the Spain and Germany that were quite close together, the gap increased and Spain went down. There was a big gap there. We stopped investing. And then the market went down to 2013. Then, thanks to the Fiesta del Cine and other initiatives, the KINO Fest, we went back up. And when cinemas were trying to reinvest again, then COVID came. So again, we haven't been investing in our cinemas for the last 10, 12, 14 years. Not everyone, in a general average. So there's a lack of investment in cinemas, not because theater owners have not wanted to do it, but they haven't been able to do it. No? And those cinemas that have invested in refurbishment, in new technologies, are the ones that nowadays in Spain are catching up. Customers, when they came to the cinema, they want a good movie and a comfort, whether it is a recliner seat, new technologies like 4DX, ScreenX, IMAX, these new features that make the big screen experience something special. No?
And they like going to the cinema in the summer, as we've seen.
Of course.
Which I think some of us were surprised about. We all have this idea, same as in Italy, that people won't come in, but it's obviously just a cliche.
But even in Spain, you ask audiences or you ask anyone, when do you think is the best period in season in Spain? They say Christmas. Nobody believes that it is in summer. But as Bernd said, it's very simple. People go to the cinemas mainly in a massive way when they have free time, usually the weekends. And in Spain, as we have very long summer holidays, school holidays basically, it's a great period. For example, this year, July would be the record month of the year in Spain. So when you're going to ask what we expect for the future, we just look forward to July, which is going to be huge in Spain.
Looking forward to July. Gregor, is that the same in Germany? Not about the summer, but about what the audience expects? Good content, we all know that, but also comfort?
Yeah, Well, we don't have those 3 months of holidays, but holidays are very important for our business, and unfortunately, the distributors all place their films when there are holidays, and you don't have as many films when there are no holidays. But then we have lots of holidays in Germany spread out over the year, so it's not as bad.
But I see there is an opportunity of for growth, whatever. In Germany for the summer, in other parts of the year. I think we have to try to think a bit out of the box and see these as opportunities, not assume that this is the rule and we cannot do more about that. Obviously, we don't have control on content, which is something that is supplied to us. But I do think that we can do lots of things from our side.
I mean, you touched upon it a couple of minutes ago when you talked about the golden age of multiplexes in Spain. Do you think the cinema experience, and if so, has changed over the past 5 years, that the age of multiplexes is gone and that we're now moving towards a smaller, more boutique feel, or PLFs, or, I mean, how do you feel this has changed in Spain?
Yeah, you're right. Things have changed, but that doesn't mean we cannot go to the conclusions like you're saying, oh, Multiplex era is gone. Or
I'm not saying it, I'm asking.
No, but it's usually that we try to find answers to the questions, but depending on what the question is yes, the cinema going experience have changed basically because our audiences have changed. Basically because there's more offer in the market. We've seen it, we know it, no? People have a larger choice, so they can have different leisure activities. And that makes us, forces us to do more things to attract those audiences. But as we've seen in recent years, again, as I was mentioning before, there has been very few periods in time where we had a good flow of product. Actually, a couple of months was the Barbenheimer event in July, August 23, or these past 2 months of November, December 2024, when there was enough product on the market, well, films, it sounds better than product, the results have been as good as they were before. It's simply that we, as I said, need more regular flow of product. But in these periods, audiences came. I mean, there has been a lot of debate if young people are not going back to the cinema, if elderly people in certain markets don't go to the cinema. That's not true. If there's a movie for them, they do come, and they do enjoy that experience. Obviously, we have to do our part of the work, being there, investing, and having our cinemas to attract those audiences. But the real magic of cinema, of seeing a movie in a big screen, is still there. It's working very well, and I think, and I have plenty of anecdotes or stories to tell about elderly people, young people that come now, not in the past, now to the cinemas and really enjoy the experience.
Thank you. Gregor? Do you feel the cinema experience has changed, and how?
Yes. Well, first, the cinemas have changed. When we built our first cinemas, the small screen would have to have at least a capacity of 200 seats, because, well, that's what we thought back then. It needs to be a big, not too small a screen. And these days, when new cinemas are built, sometimes the biggest screen has 200 seats. I mean, the seats are a lot bigger. They take up the space where in the old days you would have put 4 seats. So it's more luxurious. But also at the end of the cinema, the small screens now have 50 seats or even less, because where you don't need a big screen or a big capacity for the older films these days. So So one thing is that we offer more luxurious seats, and the other thing is that for the older film you don't need as much capacity as you used to.
Well, I would add something to that because we've experienced that evolution also in the Spanish market. When we started building multiplexes, you build it one multiplex in a place and you grab all the audience around. Then other multiplexes starting to build around that multiplex, and then the market split among the different cinemas. That is one of the reasons why nowadays that lots of cinemas are switching to recliners and so it happens what you said, that we had a room that could have 400 seats and now it holds 200, or had 250, now it's 100. So, but it's basically because the offer in that market has not. We have cinemas that we built with almost 4,000 seats that nowadays are with 2,000 seats because there has been more competition around and there has been other features that force you to invest. No?
Yeah, that aspect is also a factor in Germany.
I mean, we've seen a slide about the number of sites and screens in both markets. And I know this is something that we talked about, Jaime, before we started this panel. Germany has this tradition of family-owned companies. Is that the same in Spain, Jaime? I mean, what's the structure of the market?
No,
today?
actually, and you saw it in the slide, in Germany you have 1,700 cinemas, while in Spain we have 750 only. And basically, I guess, it's because here in Germany, you got a lot of smaller or family-owned or smaller town cinemas that you should be working in preserving them, because the problem is that we lost them in Spain and now there is no way of them coming back. So it's a big treasure that you should help preserve, nurture, in trying to keep them alive, because it's a big part of the market.
Anything you want to add to this, Gregor? Or?
Yeah, we still have a lot of small cinemas, and they make up a lot bigger share of the attendance than in other countries. But yes, the cinema where I trained or where I worked as a pupil is now closing and is up for sale because the new generation doesn't want to operate it anymore or cannot do it. So it'll probably close.
So we're facing similar struggles, I think, in that sense, and we touch upon funding in a minute. I'm going to be a bit more political. We're going to talk about Windows, because we love talking about Windows. We all know, and I'm sure no one will contradict me, I hope, in this room, that as cinemas, we need a strong, clear period of exclusivity for cinemas to have the certainty that they can make the investment and recoup their investments. Also to ensure that the audience is not confused, because if they don't know when and where a film is playing, it's detrimental not just to us, but to our partners from the whole value chain. And we also know there's not a best, this is the best launching pad. If a film does well at the cinema, it will do well in following windows. So that being said, how do you feel the conversation is going around Windows in Spain, Jaime? Because I know there are no laws. It's all contractual agreements. So how do you feel this has gone?
Yes, I couldn't agree more with you on that. But in Spain, we have a new cinema law where we try to the government to introduce a minimum window for cinemas, but we haven't succeeded so far in getting that done. So from the Spanish Cinema Federation, we lobby for having a very clear window, because as you said, in Spain there is a lot of audience that say, oh, this one I will wait when it comes out, and even if they don't know what a window is or whenever they're going to see it, because it's not clear. I think that on our colleagues on distribution, there's a clear change towards respecting the window. Studios that got content that was supposed to be released or even announced to be released in cinemas, and they put it directly released in their platforms, now have changed their mentality, their decision. They've realized, as you said, that there is no better platform to launch the movies than cinemas. So I hope that in that sense, I'm not so confident that the government would agree on putting that on writing, but the trend with distributors is to establish certain windows that in the end have been proved to be a win-win situation.
So do you feel a bit more positive today around?
Optimistic, no, but positive, yes.
Great. Gregor, I mean, I know Germany is a bit different because you do have a window for publicly funded films.
We also have that in Spain, yeah.
You do, okay. And how do you think the conversation is going around windows? Do you also feel, you said I'm not optimistic, but I'm positive, yeah? I think let's use that moving forward. So not optimistic, but positive.
Yeah, probably the same for us. Yeah, our windows, the German windows are fixed, more or less, but we're depending on what the decisions are in the United States. And we are seeing that more studios seem to think that a window can help a film get, we hope that there will be a minimum window again, one that everybody sticks to. It's not going to be the window that we used to have, but we hope there's a more reliable window than we have today.
And something more consistent.
Yeah.
Super.
Well, consistent, we still hope we have a longer window than the States, but yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
In the States are talking about 45 days, yeah. Standard window, whatever that means, but.
Yeah, as a minimum, yeah.
We're talking about a lot of things in the States at the moment.
Too many.
Let's talk local content, because this is one of the points that surprised you when you saw the presentation that Bernd delivered. You thought there would be more Spanish local content, local films in the top 10, and then Jaime gave us a bit more background information as to why there were not so many. The share is actually quite similar between Germany and Spain when it comes to box office share of local content. Do you feel there is more that could be done to increase that share, and that could be done by all our partners in the film value chain? Because we always say, it's not just true for local content, but as you mentioned time and time again, Jaime, we need a consistent, constant slate of well-marketed and quality films to attract audiences. Because at the end of the day, we need the product.
The key are the 3 Bs: promotion, promotion, and promotion. That's what you need about the Spanish content. Because audiences like it, but they are not aware that these movies are coming out. You've seen in these charts, last year's charts, the title that Bernd could not pronounce, Padre no hay más que uno, There's Only One Father, that it was the 4th installment, and now on the 26th of June, we have Padre no hay más que uno 5. So why do these films work? Because there's brand awareness, because there has been, after 5 movies, there's a promotion behind that. But we need more of that. There are a lot of comedies that come out, but they don't reach the audience. You have to make, as we said, we have more offer, competition everywhere, and you have to have your share of voice to be known by the audiences. But the key on that things is promotion.
And I know that we have tax break in Spain to support production, but do films also release public support, local films?
Yeah, that should change. I'm not so familiar with how these things work in Germany, but in Spain, subsidies and support has always gone to production. not realizing that that's just one of the 3 legs of the industry, of the famous value chains, as you love to say. So we need more promotion, more support for promotion, and also for exhibition.
Gregor, around local content and having quality, well-marketed films, and what more could be done, basically. And you might tell me, well, it's the other guy's problem, but...
No, I mean, promotion is the most crucial part of it, obviously. Also the dating, you have times when you have lots of German films cannibalizing each other because they all want to go on the same date or the same time frame. And maybe, I don't know if that's a German thing, but we have the distinction between serious art and entertainment. And that sometimes is a problem for a film. If it's in between those 2 areas, then it's difficult to promote it, and it's difficult to decide which cinemas to show it in. I don't know if that's a general problem. It's a German one for sure.
Well, that's obviously it's a perception for the media, no? This is art house or this is a commercial movie. But I never agree with that, because as a cinema owner, I know the audience, and the same person, the same man, the same lady, the same kid, well, kids no, but men and women, that they can go to see what we would call a commercial movie. They another day want to see a different movie. So and this tendency has changed, because again, in the past we used to have art house venues that only play where there are a couple of them, one in Madrid and one in Barcelona, that wherever you play, doesn't matter, you sell the tickets there. I mean, you play anything, they go and watch that content. But apart from these 2, nowadays even large multiplexes are playing more art house. Somehow, as you say, those movies that are not clearly on one side or on the other, but in the midfield, and they play well. So, I mean, audiences are not so conscious about I go to this cinema or I go to that one. They want to see that content as long as they know that this content exists. But if you allow me go into what you mentioned before, what else what we can do? I said that I'm a 3rd generation theater owners, and now as we are among theater owners, I would say we are somehow lazy people. So sometimes we should challenge ourselves, because you were asking before, audience has changed. I think society has changed. Now there's a new social media, there's another way of communicating. And I think, and I do say that also in Spain, we as theater owners should be doing more about reaching out to other audiences. I remember in my great-grandfather time, we just had to care about changing the poster once a week, and people were coming to us. We didn't need to do anything else, just keep our cinemas clean and work 7 days a week. No? But nowadays, things have changed. As I said, we have more competition outside, and we need to reach out to audiences. And we have a very privileged position, as we can, through social media, so online sales and those things, we do have a lot of information about our customers. I have a lot of colleagues that our industry in Spain, I'm been very pushing a lot for data-driven decisions, not based on intuition. Lots of my colleagues in Spain, I said, yeah, I know who's the audience, I know what to do. We're based too much on intuition. And I know that there's a lot of things that are being done already or starting to be done in reaching out to audiences. But I do feel that we could do more. And if we manage to do that on a collective way, those figures that we saw before about in Spain going back to 100 million tickets or even beyond that are possible. I'm very positive on that, but we have to do more on our side also.
And because you talk about reaching out to audiences, I'm going to talk about a couple of audiences initiatives. Let's talk about the Fiesta del Cine, which is, you know, those kind of parting time for cinema and get people in. It's quite old, I think, now, and I say that in a positive way. Can you tell us more about it? I mean, how long has it been around? It's been extremely successful over the past couple of years. And you also have a second initiative that I'd like you to touch upon, is to bring older people to the cinema. I think older is above 60 years old. Is that how you define it?
In Spain, it's 65. There's a big discussion on that, but it's from a statistical point of view, it's 65. Well, I'm glad that you asked me this question on Fiesta del Cine, which is KINO Fest, because I just learned talking to our German colleagues that for you it will be, I think it's the 4th year that you will play KINO Fest. No? In Spain, we started, I think, around 2008. After probably 6 or 7 years of discussing, we have to do something like the French Fête du Cinéma. After long discussions, we managed to start with that, and it didn't start that well. It really was a breakthrough 2013. And 2013 was the year when, remember, Spain has started to go down, 2008, 9, 10, and we were very down. We were at a very low level, to a point that even US studios told to their offices in Spain, guys, do something or we're losing this market. And then everybody, distributors, exhibitors, binded together and let's do something really, really to reach out of. And we chose to make a bigger effort on La Fiesta del Cine, KINO Fest. And basically, there were two things. One was putting interesting movies, because nowadays, when there is the Fiesta del Cine, in Spain, we agree that between distributors and exhibitors. In France, it's different. It's something that exhibitors decide on their own. But in Spain, we try to agree, and we always have long quarrels. This day, no, this is, I have a film there, don't put it there, don't put it there. But at that time, everybody was conscious that we had to do something very, very, very urgently. And that was one point that the industry binded together, distributors, exhibitors, and we chose a very powerful slate. And the other thing was communication. I mean, one of the issues, and if you ask me today what is the problem of La Fiesta del Cine in Spain, is that we don't invest enough in promotion. You remember the word. Always, we don't, because basically we promote the Fiesta del Cine as we don't have budget for that. No subsidies. Well, yes, the Ministry of Culture gives us 15,000 euros, 15 and 3 zeros. It's not big money to make a big campaign. But we promote that in our cinemas. And when we promote that in our cinemas, we are talking to our audiences. So people that attend La Fiesta del Cine in Spain is basically people that would like to go to the cinema but that they cannot afford. Remember that in Spain, our price was till very recently 2.5 euros. So that's nothing. Now it's 3.5 euros, but again, it's not like 5 euros you have here in Germany. And the thing is that basically it's people that cannot afford going to the cinema, or those that are regular customers, and they say, oh, for that price, I see all the movies that are available, no? But we don't reach out audiences outside this group of customers that are no longer coming to the cinema or have different attitudes toward the entertainment, so that this would be the big challenge, reaching out to these audiences and bringing them because of that special offer, or La Fiesta del Cine is one example. No?
And just for people to be aware, Fiesta del Cine is twice a year.
Yes,
right, so
one in the spring and another in the fall. And it's the fall is usually the more successful one, right. But obviously if we manage one day to get a proper budget of promotion, I think we could reach a very high, because it's also not only how many people come, but also that at that moment everybody's talking about the cinema, going to the cinema, the movies. Actually, the big success that we had in 2013, because as you heard me complaining about no budget, at that time we had no budget. But we have an extremely successful campaign, thanks to the fact that the economy in Spain was so bad, that when you went out, we gave the right message at the right time to the right people. So in 2013 we say, now cinema costs €2.50. And then we had all the media for free coming to our cinemas, shooting the queues in front of the cinema. There was that, nowadays we would say, a trending topic. Everybody was talking about cinema, about La Fiesta del Cine, and we had a huge success. For the first 5 years, we didn't have those numbers. It was after this year that we had the excellent movie, we had this free promotion, but it was huge promotion. That made us go up, and since then La Fiesta del Cine is a consolidated brand that Fece uses twice a year, as you said.
The power of the brand. Gregor, how do you feel about KinoFest? Because it's still relatively young. Same idea, it's about celebrating cinema, so getting people to get excited about going to the cinema together and make it a very, very special event. Do you feel that this is something that has gone well and there's potential for growth and building that brand?
Yes, absolutely. We love we as a company, we love the KinoFest, and we think it's a very good thing. It's placed at the end of a time when the cinema business is rather slow, and we hope to get back a lot of people into the cinema to show them the trailers and the posters for the upcoming films, so that those films are promoted, like promotion again. And yes, and also we want to give people a chance who usually couldn't afford cinema. But I think our €5 may be the same fraction of the regular price as the 350 in
Spain. Probably. The thing is that in Spain, €5 you have it as a reduced price in many markets. Also in Comscore numbers you saw average ticket price, but for example in Madrid and Barcelona the average ticket price on a Saturday night is around €10. And the same offer in the south of Spain could be around €6. So then €5 for us. I mean, one problem in certain areas, especially in the south of Spain, is that you can have €3.50 as every Wednesday. So it's not a big deal, no?
Yeah.
In other markets like Barcelona or Madrid, anything that is under €5, it's a very big deal.
So we have the other problem.
Consumer-wise, I mean, for the audiences, you know.
Yeah. We have the other problem. We have cinemas that are very luxurious with PLF screens, and for those cinemas, €5 is not really enough. So we actually demand an increment for that. So it's €5 plus the IMAX.
But it's the same thing in Spain. I mean, La Fiesta and some exhibitors might say it's for everyone, but most cinemas that have invested in PLFs, on special formats, they have a surplus, obviously.
Yeah.
But again, it's not the price that drives, it's the message.
Yeah, it's the party, the many people, yeah.
I do have another couple of questions. I mean, we have 7 minutes left, but I want to give opportunity to the audience to ask questions if they have any burning information they would like to have on Spain. Don't be shy. I see someone at the back over there, please, and one at the front. Do we have a microphone or? I can stand up, okay.
Microphone next to your seat and you have to press and speak.
So the microphone next to your seat and you have to press. Let's see if that works.
I mean, since I won't be answering, I can...
German technology is not working. Wow.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Gregor from Kinopolis. Laura, you were asking right at the beginning what was the biggest surprise looking at the figures, and the biggest surprise was the difference in average ticket price. So, and you said something very interesting after the crisis. You said you agreed on very low prices in the industry, or you went down to low prices, but in some way you agreed on it, which is interesting in different ways, I guess. So first of all, how could you agree? But also, do you still think that a lower ticket price really has a high impact on admissions, or shouldn't it be the other way around, like offering something special, investing in PLFs, and because we are all asked to invest in our theaters, which results in higher ticket prices. So what is your perception on the Spanish market? Where do we go? Like lower the prices to have more admissions? Is that a critical factor, or really to invest and make sure that you offer something special at a higher price?
Well, first a disclaimer. Please don't quote me saying that we agree on pricing, because I could go to jail for that. But I personally think that is agreeing on lowering the price. Lowering the price is not a good strategy in the long term. It can be effective on a very precise moment in time, but lowering the price. I mean, one of the problems that we had when you saw those figures that the market was going down, one of the mistakes that we did it, and I've said that many times, is that one exhibitor had 60 euros, his competitor lowered it to 5, then because of that, the other one lowered it to 4, then they lowered it to 3, then they lowered it to 2, and then they realized that they were all losing a lot of money. And we cannot survive and we cannot invest if we keep lowering the price. Spain, but not only cinemas, entertainment industry is basically in Spain perceived as a very low price. I mean, something that in Spain can cost 5 euros a service, a leisure service in Spain. In Sweden, it costs 3 times more than that. So the perception in Spain is that it has to be low. This is one of the reasons why in the south of Spain, cinema prices are very low. The companies banking the investment there in refurbishment, and they don't raise the prices, and then they financially suffer. And some of them are not surviving, no? So I don't personally think that the lowering of a price is the best strategy to grow our market. I think that we have to give a better experience, whether it is comfort in the seat, whatever it is any different type of offer in formats, and that is the trend to grow. In fact, I can tell you, from our own experience in our cinemas, during the pandemic, we invested, and we were the first cinemas to come out of the pandemic with huge results, while there's still others were offering. And some of them reacted by lowering the price, so that was not the way. But of course, a low price sometimes catch in, as the example I put in 2013, that was the right message, and people wanted to hear that and say, oh, now that the cinemas have lowered the price, I will go to the cinema. So at that moment in time, it was a good strategy. But if we abuse the fact of lowering prices, I think it's a mistake, obviously in the mid and the long term.
Still a question at the back, or if we can work out the microphone? Oh, we can have that conversation after. Actually, yeah, please.
I forgot to mention it difference between Spain and Germany, which I find striking, is that in Germany we still have 3D. And I remember our Spanish colleagues saying it doesn't make any sense for us to show 3D. Even for the same price, people will not watch it in 3D. And I mean, sometimes we force our guests into 3D because we only show the one version. But when we offer both versions, 20% still choose 3D in Germany, even if there's an increment of €3.
Well, this is a good point. 3D in Spain was destroy the prestige of 3D by very bad product, and let's be honest that several exhibitors were not giving the light, the correct light levels, and things that actually people start saying, well, it's not worth 3D. And again, with the bad habit that we have in Spain, as I just mentioned, we then, okay, but then we lower the price, and then we give it for the same price. So that really destroyed the 3D. Prestige in Spain in general terms. In our cinemas that we have special formats, we play 3D, and people go crazy. No, we want the glasses, and sometimes we have movies that don't have 3D, and they say, no glasses, no, but I want the glasses, no, and we charge €1.50 for those glasses, and they don't complain. So it's about experience, it's about giving the quality, and when we've made mistakes, as you mentioned, it happens, like in Germany, you have 20% that wants 3D, and in Spain, nobody would put it, but now everybody is working for preparing their cinemas, and they're restoring the 3D for Avatar 3 because they rediscover 3D with the Avatar 2. But yes, in special formats, it works very well. So if you give quality, people do appreciate it.
So I'm going to go 2 minutes over, which frankly is nothing compared to how late I was yesterday thanks to Deutsche Bahn. So please forgive me. Jaime, I think I have a question for you that's going to tie nicely actually with the rest of the afternoon, where our German colleagues are going to talk about sustainability. I know this is something that you feel passionate about, and the whole Spanish film industry has come together to see how they can be more sustainable. Can you tell us a bit more about that? And I think that would be a nice wrap-up.
A bit more? No, I would need double the time that the German bank took it. No, in Spain we have, well, you see, in the end, all these issues on sustainability, actually it turns down, in the end, is about a reporting, financial reporting. No? And basically is more CFOs of the companies that are responsible for those reportings that really show interest in sustainability. What we've done when we are working in Spain is about measuring the carbon footprint of the whole exhibition industry. We've made a test with 5 cinemas that has been very successful. But between us, we are doing that to get subsidies from our government. And basically, we are still in that process of convincing them. But what we really have learned about these issues is that it's a EU directive that we have to adapt all our legislation to do that. And we need to have a common rule of measurement. If not, if we do different initiatives, we don't know how much of this or how much of that. And this is a thing that it's a first step in that direction, and that is proven very useful to us, especially to convince our government, not only the Ministry of Culture, but the Ministry of Green Transition that we have in Spain. And they look at that as an example. You have to think that our industry is not a polluting one. In the long term or in the mid-term, nobody will be paying attention on that. And we will be forced, binded by the regulations to do these things. If we can now find a way to get subsidies for these tasks, it will help us in the future. And it will open a very open conversation with the government and with the authorities so that we can do more things, or for example, get subsidies for the migration to laser, for renewing our air conditioning systems or heating systems. I mean, that is a way to attract investment in our industry, much needed investment.
Thank you. Can I have please a big round of applause for our two speakers here today?